Time to take a look at what's making headlines here in France, and we can say good morning to Alison Sargent. Good to see you.
Good morning, Delano.
You're starting out with our top story here. Nicolas Sarkozy placed under formal investigation for taking money from the Libyan government to finance his campaign back in 2007.
Right, he has been mis en examen, as they say here in France, and it's actually not the first time. Nicolas Sarkozy has already been put under formal investigation in two other affairs, so this is now the third. He's kind of dogged by judicial worries. But still, the Huffington Post says it's a sign things are really getting quite serious for the former president. The case against Sarkozy relies actually in part on statements from one of the sons of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The son is named Saif al-Islam. Back in 2011, he told French media that he wanted the money Libya had given to Sarkozy back. And Saif al-Islam has actually reacted to this news about Nicolas Sarkozy. He thanked the French justice system for, as he put it, arresting him. You can see a photo of him there in the Huffington Post. He also said that he has solid proof that Sarkozy accepted the money from Libya. Now, Saif al-Islam is still in Libya, where he plans to run for president. This despite the fact that the International Criminal Court actually has an arrest warrant issued for him.
Now, things don't look too good for Nicolas Sarkozy, but despite this, his political party are sticking by his side.
Right, his party, Les Républicains, are standing by him, and they're not the only ones. The Figaro reports that he's also gotten some sort of less expected support from a couple of far-right parties, including the National Front. Marine Le Pen has actually publicly questioned the neutrality of the judge who's investigating Sarkozy's case, a judge who's already ordered Sarkozy to go to trial for the so-called Pygmalion affair, which also has to do with campaign financing. France's communist paper L'Humanité, though, is one of those who is not so sympathetic to Sarkozy. They say that, in a way, he's getting what's coming to him for being the last heir to the so-called France-Afrique, which is a term used to describe the complex relationship between France and its former colonies. Humanité says the network of secretive financing deals between French and African politicians has for a long time benefited the French right wing, and they say Sarkozy is sort of the last benefactor of that system.
Now, moving on to another top story which we're following for you. That's the strikes that's set to grip the country later today.
All right, Delano, a national day of action, and it's sort of a practice round for the 3 months of strikes we're actually going to be seeing starting in April. The paper Humanité warns our public services are at a breaking point, and they really want Emmanuel Macron to stand up and take notice. The president has said in the past that he doesn't see the anger in the country, and in its editorial today, Humanité says, well, let's see if he can keep pretending that that is the case after this. Le Parisien, meanwhile, calls these strikes a new test for Macron. The paper says in the fall, we sort of saw a first test with protests over the labor code reform. They say Macron won that round, but so far this one is shaping up to be a lot closer for him. Right-wing paper Le Figaro is reacting to the strike, though, with sort of the disdain that you might expect. They say Macron's authority is being defied, and they encourage the president to remain strong and not give in to the unions.
Now, a lot of papers marking the start of strike season, if you will, with a lot of puns.
All right, Delano, and some are kind of hard to explain.
It's not a laughing matter, but okay.
For, everything, I guess. I guess they've grown so used to it, it's, like, easy to joke about. I thought I'd show you just this one from Libération. They say, l'heure est grève, the time is to strike, which is a take on the phrase in French, l'heure est grave, are serious. So I guess, they still get the serious element in there. Strikes are nothing new in France, but there's one way in which today's strikes will actually be quite different from other ones, and that is, for the first time, journalists are going to be doing their own count of how many people are participating. Usually newspapers give 2 counts for protests. They give, one from police and one from organizers, and there's always a huge difference between the two. But after today's protest, for the first time, we're going to have a count from journalists.
Now, finally, Alison, today's strike comes at a rather auspicious day for protest movements. The May 1968 protests also began today.
Right, March 22nd, 1968, and they began at Nanterre University, which is just west of Paris. It actually started when a handful of young men went into the female dormitory and refused to leave. They were calling for free movement for everyone on campus. Those protests eventually took hold and moved to the streets of Paris, as you see in that photo from Libération taken on the Boulevard Saint-Michel. Now, at the time the protests began, there was actually a big slum just outside of Nanterre University. It's not there anymore, but at the time, migrants, mostly from Algeria, but also Morocco, Italy, and Portugal were living there. And our sister radio station, RFI, spoke to one person who lived in that slum at the time. He was only 15 and he witnessed the protests. His name is Brahim Benesha. He talks about having a very strong relationship with the students who would come and take him swimming or to the movies. But he says he really had could not understand why they were protesting. He says, I couldn't understand why you would break something that was new, but they told me it was a revolt against capitalism.
Alison Sargent, thank you very much for that look at the press review. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us. Live from Paris continues after this.